Hanging around.
Yeah, they are there. But they're still not yet.
Yes, absolutely.
I'm going to take that then.
Yeah.
Okay.
You only get a picture. Yeah.
Good afternoon. I'm Fody Koskinas. I'm the police chief for the town of Westport. I want to thank everybody for taking the time. I know there's going to be a lot of questions. Just please understand early on, this is a fluid, ongoing investigation. There's a lot going on. There's multiple agencies helping us with what's going on. Some of the information that we can will absolutely release to you early on. There will be a significant amount of information for days to come from this point on. I will give you a short synopsis of what happened. With me to answer any questions, I have the superintendent of schools, Colleen Palmer. I do have the principal of the school, James D'Amico. The lead investigator on our side that oversees the detective bureau is Eric Woods, Lieutenant Eric Woods. And one of our first selectmen is here, James Marpy, select woman Melissa Cairns behind me, and Jonathan Steinberg. I hope I didn't miss anybody. Deputy Chief Sam Marchiola also. Early this morning, approximately 9 a.m., the police department received a call from Staples High School from officials that a juvenile student was overheard making threats that he was going to shoot a teacher. The student who was overheard this statement reported it immediately to school officials. Officers and detectives responded to Staples High School, where the male student was already being interviewed by school administrators. This is normal procedure thus far, what's going on. Based on the information that was learned by the school administrators, it was confirmed that the student did have thoughts of executing a mass shooting at our high school. At this time, we continue to investigate whether those thoughts developed into an actual plan. Our detectives were able to establish that there were firearms at the student's home, which obviously complicates the matter. The firearms belonged to the student's father and were reportedly locked in a safe. However, officers could not confirm at the time whether all the firearms were accounted for. There was also a concern for ghost guns, and we can talk about that if anybody has any questions in a minute. Out of an overabundance of caution, Staples High School was first directed to shelter in place while buses were assembled for dismissal at approximately 1:15. Officers from surrounding towns assisted Westport. The state police, the town of Fairfield, and Norwalk all sent a significant amount of resources to help us out. Also, as a precaution, officers were placed at all of our schools until dismissal. We are currently conducting several search warrants with the assistance of major crimes from the state police. And like I said earlier, it is an ongoing investigation with a lot of information to still be gathered. I will turn it over shortly to the superintendent of schools and our first selectman, and I will take as many questions as I possibly can, but please understand I can't release a lot of information at this point. Colleen?
Good afternoon. I am here and able to share that we're very fortunate that I feel we averted a very serious possible tragedy today to our high school. I would like to commend all of the individuals who came together in our community to keep our students, staff safe at Staples High School. Last night, our high school principal sent out a reminder email to students and parents. You know, if you see something, hear something, say something. And I do believe that that reminder email, as part of our protocol of safety, helped to reinforce the urgency with the student who came forward and shared the information. And we are most grateful that that student stepped up and alerted us to this information. But beyond that, I also would like to extend my appreciation and commend the Westport Police Department and the other first responders from neighboring communities who came in partnership, who helped us managing an evolving situation. Because as more information came forth, we were constantly trying to assess to make sure that we were keeping all of our students and staff safe at all times, which happened today. As I said, we are very fortunate that based on the good work of our students, our first responders, And as we had a command center in my office managing the situation, our first selectman joined us also to contribute to the good thinking and the oversight of how we work together. So I'm here today, and again, in the aftermath of recent events in our country that have resulted in so many horrific events in other schools, I feel very fortunate that this evening our students are home safe and sound, and together we work together to keep them that way. Thank you.
Mr. Murphy?
This is the kind of day that you never want to have happen, but we have prepared for it, and we rehearsed a lot of responses, and thankfully that played out, and we saw that played out today. I want to add my compliments and thanks to our first responders, our police department, our fire department involved as well, but also the first responders from the state police and Fairfield and Norwalk and their mutual aid. Very, very helpful to us today. And I commend all of our school administrators and students as well for reacting appropriately and calmly and dealing with this in a very professional and an appropriate manner. We hope that we never have to go through this again, but I'm glad to know that we are prepared and as a community are prepared to react appropriately. I think as was discussed last night at the Board of Education meeting, we need to engage the community in a community conversation about this very topic, and how do we continue to address what is obviously and unfortunately and sadly become an all too common set of events. And I'll look forward to working with the superintendent, with the chief of police, and the appropriate members of the community to organize that kind of conversation in the very near future. And again, thank you for all coming and wanting to know more about it. And I'll turn this back to the chief of police for any further commentary that you're here to offer.
Thank you for all your support. We're here to take some questions. Like I said, I will answer what I possibly can, and I don't want to jeopardize the investigation at this point. We'll start right in the front, guys.
Is anyone in custody related to this event?
Right now, the person that was involved is in custody. He's actually being evaluated at a local hospital. Yes?
This is probably geared more towards the superintendent. Last night there was a meeting about bringing a possible SR to campus. Is this going to affect that at all?
Well before this event, it was my recommendation to have a school resource officer at our high school. I think this just strengthens the argument to move forward in that direction.
Was there a weapon at all found?
There has been no weapon found. Again, in the overabundance of safety, we are searching the entire school. We have teams at the school because we want to be confident when we open school up tomorrow that everybody's going back to a safe place. So there are extensive searches, but there's nothing that's leading us to believe that there is something there. We're just doing it for caution. Yes, sir, in the back?
Related to that, you suggested there were a number of warrants for searches. Is there anything behind that, or what's the purpose of that?
Well, anytime we have something like this happen, we know people may communicate and often do, and often search certain criteria for what they may be planning to do. We're often looking for journals. We're going to be checking computers. We're going to be checking different phones, all sorts of data that's possibly gathered somewhere to give us an insight of what's going on. And obviously, we're always studying these because it's the next time it's going to happen, whether it's in this community. We share the information widely to get all that out to other law enforcement agencies that he may be communicating with somebody in another jurisdiction. Yes?
Do you know if the student has had any history of disciplinary issues with school?
I do not know that, and I wouldn't be able to answer it on my behalf, and I don't think the school is in a position to answer that either.
Also, can you confirm that school is going to be operating normally tomorrow? Is the schedule will be open?
It would be premature for me to let the superintendent know that. We have every intention of that being the case, no matter what resources we have to use this evening. But in the off chance that we come up with something or something of concerns on what the active investigation is showing us, we'd certainly take precautions. As of right now, there's no such reason that we wouldn't open schools at a regular time, but the superintendent and I work closely, and we want to make sure whoever walks through that door is feeling comfortable that we've done our due diligence. Additionally, as you can imagine, there will be added security for tomorrow and the next few days for real reasons.
Was it a
Yes.
threat against one teacher initially, and then and then through your investigation, you found out that there?
Yes, what was overheard was a threat against one teacher.
One
Not by,
teacher.
nobody was named, we don't have anything like that.
Mhm.
During further interviewing is where the information was developed that there were plans or ideas of a mass shooting in our school.
And did he say that to the investigating officer?
That was not to the investigating officer.
I've had a concern for a long time about the lockers at Staples and how the lockers generally aren't used, but some are open. I know my kids know which ones are open. I hope that all those lockers are being searched, and I hope that we can address getting rid of those lockers or doing something with that in the school.
The entire school is being searched, and we will make sure that every locker is checked this evening before we have re-entry of our students and staff. And we'll continue to work as part of our safety and security plan to address the locker issue.
Yes.
Can you clarify exactly what additional security measures will be updated in the school going forward?
As much as I would like to tell you exactly what's going on, that would really be tipping our hat to everybody out there of what exactly is taking place. I can tell you there's adequate security all the time, and we work closely with the school. That is going to be significantly intensified for the next few days. To be quite honest with you, more to give you and your parents and other parents a little peace of mind. It's not for information that we have currently that there's a current threat. This is to let people know we're always there for you. We're going to be even there a little more for you for the next few days and help you cope with what's happening. Yes?
There have been lockdowns in several Westchester County schools today. Is this event related to those lockdowns?
We have absolutely nothing that says the two events are related. We have been keeping track in case there was something. There's no information developed that the two are related.
Okay.
Yes?
There was an additional police car dispatched to Greensburg County today. Is that related to the incident or so was?
We try to cover as many schools as we could. As resources came into town from other jurisdictions and that were available, we put them as close as we can to preschools, to other places where gatherings of children would be. We're doing the best we can and getting the resources out. The minute it became available, the other secondary schools also were covered. You guys are being very easy on me. I appreciate it.
Is there any
Yes,
reason
sir.
to believe that something triggered the event or set it off in any way?
Some of the early information we developed, finding out today, some of these statements may have also been made in days prior, but we don't have anything that actually triggered the actual event, and we have information yet. There might be something that comes out in the next few days, and we're certainly going to be sharing all that information as the investigation unfolds.
And at this point, is there a motive?
We do not have that information. Like I said, a lot is going to be told by the data that we seize, and we're hoping to gather as much information as possible. Obviously, we're going to be first of all, identifying friends and acquaintances and interviewing them. We're going to be speaking to the parents. I do want to say at some point, we are not in a position to release any of the names, but as a credit, the family has been incredible in working with us on every level, supplying as much information as we can while at the same time protecting their child.
You
Yes.
said that a threat was overheard today. Was that overheard by another student and reported by another student?
Yes, if there's a scenario, look, we're trying the best we can, and we're actually very good at what we do, but today was a perfect example of how things should work, and I'm not saying on the police. We're the professionals. We should be acting certain ways. There's a lot of credit to be given to a child that had the strength to step up and go to the administrator and say, this is what I heard, and this is how it came out, because without that information, we may be having a much different press conference tonight. Yes, sir.
You said there was a person taken into custody. Is there currently an investigation in the search of a residence in Westport?
There are currently 2 search warrants being executed in town. I will not disclose the addresses, and the person who was involved in school is in custody right now at a medical facility for evaluation.
Thank you.
Are all the father's firearms accounted for?
To the best of our knowledge right now, the firearms are accounted for. There's an out-of-state address that also has firearms that are related to this. So I can't tell you 100%, and that was one of the reasons for the amount of precautions that were taken today, because we can't account for everything. Also, something that you've been hearing that's a hot topic, there is a concern for the ghost guns, which are not registered guns, and people may have them. We would never have any idea who does and where they may or may not be. Yes?
Can you tell us how old the student is? Is he a minor? Is he over 18?
He is a juvenile. All right, if there's there's no questions. There will be a similar press release to the information that we share that will be going out by email to our regular press conference list. We will be holding informational at times to give you as much information as possible from this point on, unless there's something earth-shattering or breaking. I know to many of us it is earth-shattering, just enough would happen. We'll be sharing our future information through press releases on the progression of the investigation. And I thank you guys for coming out. Again, I can't say enough thanks to the student who spoke up, the administrators who took this seriously, and the quick resolution for now. It's certainly not resolved. We have a lot of work ahead of us. Thank you. Yes?
Sorry, one question.
Sure.
If you can specify, can you specify what type of firearm is found?
Look, it's scary. It's scary because there's a lot of weapons involved. There's a lot of the weapons that we've been seeing in other school shootings involved. By no means, I don't want to say too much at this, but the weapons we're all afraid of and all the weapons we talk about and we've seen in other school incidents is exactly what was available. That being said, as a courtesy to the parents, to this point, everything was locked up very well. But we can never, as the police, take that seriously. We saw that in Newtown, the guns should have been locked up. We recently saw it in Parkland, the guns should have been locked up, and people believe they were. So that's why we're here and all the precautions were taken. But yes, there were some serious firearms that were at play.
That were used in other school shootings?
Yes.
Okay.
Do we have a law in place where those weapons would be taken from their home, given that someone could be a threat to some
We
or
currently have
others?
seized every one of the weapons that we were able to find. Everything by the end of the day will be here at the Westport Police Department of Security.
I have a question for Superintendent Palmer, if you could come up to the mic. At what time did the student alert administrators, and at what time did the school or the school board let police know about this?
There were 2 phone calls made. The information came to the school administrator. Per our protocol, the phone call was made to the police first and to the superintendent second. So immediately we inform the police when a threat comes forward.
Yes, sir.
Maybe directed to our representatives, at least at the Hartford level. I see Senators Boucher and Representative Lavielle and Steinberg as well. What do you all plan to do in Hartford to address what happened today? Do you have any legislation that you're planning to? I know there's some legislation coming up related to gun violence protection. How does this make you feel about that going forward?
I think that we need to start with recognizing that Connecticut has among the strongest gun laws in the entire country, and that we responded appropriately after the tragedy of Newtown. There will be several bills this year that will address issues that are very much in the news these days, explicitly ghost guns, which are very hard to control, but we can look at the parts that are critical to creating ghost guns, and bump stocks, which has been part of the national conversation. There are also any number of bills being introduced. I can't speak to the likelihood of some of them passing. This still remains a controversial subject even here in Connecticut, and it's not clear to me which ones will make it out of committee and will reach the Florida legislature. An event like this reminds us all it can happen here, it can happen again, and I hope that my colleagues will be as serious as I am about making the next step forward to protect our citizens as well as we can.
You'll be happy to know that all of your legislators in this delegation, both Republican and Democrat, voted for what is considered probably the most far-reaching gun bill in America. It's to be understood, we had Sandy Hook, and so it affected everyone. Now, as a chair, one of the 2 chairs of the school safety committee of that bill, we put in place a new protocol. Schools have to report their plan to our Department of Public Safety. We also did quite a bit in putting funds aside for schools to be able to reinforce their entryways, have security cameras, in other words, infrastructure improvements. And in fact, that was reauthorized just this year. In addition, we put in some proposals that did pass about early identification as well in the schools, having to do with maybe students that are appearing to have some problems along the way. So we try to cover both mental health, school security, and the gun laws as well. So you can rest assured, and part of, I think, what you're seeing here is the added emphasis, the kind of drills that you have in schools that are to prepare for what we hope never happens.
So I'll come back to you. We go somewhere new. Go ahead. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. It's not just, you gotta speak loud. It's
Okay.
acoustics in there.
I would just add to that, the two bills on bump stocks and ghost guns have been raised, they're separate bills, by the Judiciary Committee. Last I looked, which was yesterday, they didn't have bill numbers yet. They have to be drafted before that happens, so that's where you should look for them. They won't be coming out of the Public Safety Committee. And some of the other things that we have discussed, where there is, since Connecticut has, as both my colleagues said, passed quite a number of measures recently that the rest of the country doesn't have. We'll be looking at probably strengthening some mental health measures, identification, also things like safety in preschools, which has not gotten as much attention as K-12 schools. So, but we're very alert to other ideas in other areas that might not be covered yet.
Thank you.
This is either Dr. Palmer or Mr. D'Amico, probably the same, sir. Is there still a plan for the lockdown drill later this week? And is there any plan to have lockdown drills more frequently? We have fire drills like every month. Is there any plan to have lockdown kind of more drilled in?
We are very loyal to our schedule of drills so that we're always prepared. And I want to commend all of our teachers, our students today, because the shelter in place went in perfectly as it should have, and we were able to dismiss without issue. Right now, just based on the sensitivity of things, I think we're going to defer the lockdown drill for a little bit. I think today's events have brought home how we handle ourselves, and while it was a real event, it also was kind of a practice for a complete lockdown of the school. So these events take a toll on the students and the staff in the schools. You know, we process them, we hear, you know, we've gone through this and we are so grateful we're all safe, but our students are going to come back tomorrow, and we want to make sure that they feel safe, because anytime you have an event like this, it is upsetting. Parents are upset, students are upset, teachers are upset. So I think we have to be sensitive to those needs, and so for that reason, we are going to defer the lockdown. But it will happen, because it's part of what we need to do as part of today's world.
This is a question for Dr. Palmer as well. Are representatives of the Staples student body going to be included in the decision to implement new safety precautions at Staples?
I'm going to also invite our principal up here. James D'Amico is principal of Staples High School, who has been very active involving students in the life of Staples in important decisions. I think we have one of the best news publications, the Inklings. I think I worry more about those reporters asking questions than all of you. So I think it's natural that we would involve the students so they understand. The more students are involved, then the more meaningful it is as we go forward, and it's just part of the culture of the high school. I don't know if you have a comment on that.
No, I just echo what Dr. Palmer said. You know, many recent policy decisions, I think as a school we're committed to student voice. So as we look at our security protocols, we'll absolutely be seeking student feedback on any changes that we would make moving forward.
What's the plan to communicate this tomorrow throughout all the schools in the district? Obviously, word will spread. This is started at the high school, but for the middle school and elementary schools to the kids there.
As part of our planning and debriefing, when I leave here, I will craft a message, several layers of communications. There'll be communication to staff. There'll be communication to aren't afraid, they're not fearful of coming to school. At the high school, when we have an event like this, we'll have a faculty meeting before school, and we'll answer all the questions of our professionals and our entire staff before we open, and there will be other ways that we will respond to the students. I just have not had 1 minute to even have a conversation about the next steps with Principal D'Amico until we leave here, and we have more work to do tonight.
Is it safe to assume that the students across the district will hear something about this tomorrow in the schools, or is that with the younger kids something you would expect the parents to handle?
I think what we're going to do is we'll probably send out a recommended message of what's helpful for parents to share. Oftentimes at the early elementary, students are not as aware of these events. And unless they bring it forward, we may not deliberately bring it to their attention. So we really want to respond to the emotional needs of the students and what they're bringing forth. We don't want to create more concern, that maybe they have no concern at all because of their age. So I think we have to, as good educators, we have to find out where our students are, and we have to design a lesson that makes sense for where they are and make sure they feel good about that.
Do you have any reason to check the other schools? Like,